Hi friends, Erika Garms here, CEO of Working Smarts. I have something that I'd like to share with you, which might help you tremendously if you're a manager or a leader and you're trying to balance or stabilize a team that has some wobbliness in it. So here's the concept. One easy way to think about the necessary facets of a team that must be in place in order to give that team a fighting chance of being highly effective, you could look at the facets as a graphic, like this, like my lousy drawing of a three-legged stool. Okay, every team, if it's effective, it needs to have clarity, or in this case, solidity, not wobbliness, in three areas. One is roles, one is goals, and the other one, which won't fit in my leg here, is relationship. Think about your own team right now and think about where the frictions are when they bubble up, where the conflict is, where the lack of clarity is when you see it. It probably will fall under one of these categories. So to get your team off to a great start, if you're a newly assembled team or you have new members, or to do a team tune-up at any time, you can refer back to this with your staff and spend a few minutes discussing, are we really clear on our roles in this group? Meaning, do we really know without a doubt who does what? What are the responsibilities that each of us has? Are there places where maybe we are letting overlaps happen because we aren't aware, or we aren't taking the effort and doing our diligence to bring up those overlaps and then figure out how to un-overlap our areas of responsibility? Are there areas of responsibility that are slipping through the cracks that no one actually is truly accountable for? And there are, of course, really nice, effective techniques to use with the group to nail these roles down and get a high level of clarity and detail in the group. And I'll do another video about that at some point in the future. It'll be about the RACI technique. The other area that an effective team has got to be clear on is their goals. And out of the tens of thousands of managers and leaders that I've worked with, I would say the number one slip up or number one oversight that I see them make is that they assume that, well-meaning in this, they assume that their staff doesn't want to be overwhelmed or distracted, bothered with understanding the bigger picture, with being given the higher view, right? The organization's strategic plan, and then maybe the division or the department's strategic objectives, and then their own unit's objectives for the year or 2 years. The manager and the leader typically thinks, that's too much for them. I don't want to bother with them. I just want to keep them focused on their work, right? Again, well-intentioned, but maybe counterintuitive. They do need to know that, and they at some level want to know how their slice of work feeds up into the unit goals and objectives, which feed into the division or department, which feed into the organization. So you don't have to over-analyze it or over-explain, but it does need to be something that you share with them on a periodic basis. You put the documents in front of them so they have them. Putting them in a shared drive is one thing so that they have access, but actually printing them out, having them in front of each member, and walking through and pointing out a few highlights in those documents is much more effective, because you're showing that they can actually make linkages, tactile linkages between the work they do individually and all those other layers of the cascading goals. So really important. If you haven't done this in a while or ever, I would highly recommend that you call a meeting, either a special meeting, call it strategic objectives, call it expanded staff meeting, or you could build it in as one of the discussion items in your standing meeting if you have a standing staff meeting. So in other words, it's never too late to bring up this conversation or revisit this conversation. It's not like if you haven't done that and you've had the same group that you manage or lead for more than a year, you've lost your window of opportunity. There is no such thing. It's always a good time to get more clarity here. And then the third leg of the stool that is sometimes wobbly, that really needs not to be, is the leg that relates to relationship. And this is what I think this is what we see most readily. This is definitely, as I said earlier, the driver of most managers and leaders that come to me with an issue that they need help with solving. It's usually about teammates that don't get along, or it's about conflicts. It's about mismatches in style. It's about staff who aren't doing what you want them to do, and you're trying to pick apart, is it a matter of ability, about aptitude, or about attitude? So the advantage of these is that you can usually spot them more easily than you can spot problems that originate with roles and goals. The hard part about relationships is that we tend to go about fixing them not in the most helpful ways. So we don't always want to bring two people together and talk it out. Okay, in some cases maybe yes, but not in all cases. We also don't always want to punish the whole group, right? Like what maybe we experienced in grade school. Everyone has to stand for recess because one or two kids were being bad or being disruptive, or they weren't ready or something. So there are cases where maybe that makes sense in the workplace, but they are few. It can make sense to talk to the parties who are having a tough time getting along separately, and to sort of strategize an approach for them to get along better by giving marching orders or suggestions to each of them separately. That can work as well. But where most of those disagreements or conflicts or misses in relationships originate from is not where you think. You probably see personality differences, style differences, communication issues, and those tend to be the things that you would give as the reasons that there are personality issues or relationship problems. Maybe it's history or misunderstandings. But beneath all of that, I see that as surface layer stuff. Not unimportant, but not the right level to intervene at. The right level to intervene at to fix the relationship problem is below that. It's at the level of identifying which core human needs are being aggravated or threatened or not met for people. And when a group of people, or even two, can learn about what is that set of human needs and how they're each acting out in a way to meet their needs, but it's being interpreted as antagonistic or confrontational or something else negative, then, only then, can the presenting issue, the top surface friction, sort of dissolve. It fades because people understand each other and themselves much better at a deeper core level, which is meaningful and valuable, and doing the work there to help people build their awareness and understand better themselves and others. That is long lasting. That is an investment in the well-being and the capacity of your team, where oftentimes investing time and resources in fixing a disagreement or making somebody apologize to somebody else, giving people workarounds so that they don't have to interact with each other, those are like Band-Aids. They're not long-lasting. They're not building long-lasting capacity in your team or skills in your team. And so while it might be alluring because it feels like you can put a Band-Aid on it quickly and the problem will go away, it's just covered up for a little while. And so the problem will emerge again, right? Band-Aids fall off and they get old and wet, right? The stickiness goes away. So remember that, if that analogy helps. The Band-Aid will eventually fall off, and there you have your wound again. So getting to the level beneath is really what you want to do. So to recap, for a stable team, a high-performing team, an effective team, you need all three of these core facets of the team, these three legs of the stool, to be solid and stable. They are roles, goals, and relationships. There are techniques and processes that I would recommend to dig in and to each of these and stabilize them for your team, or just reinforce them. If you think they're already in pretty good shape, but you want to do some preventative development, there are things you could do to just fortify each of these as well. And I will talk about some of those in future videos. Like I said, this one has a great technique called the RACI technique, which I will share. The one on goals, the aspect of goals, certainly has a lot of fantastic techniques and exercises you can do with groups that I'll talk about in another video. And then similarly with relationships, I mentioned that underneath layer of human needs. Any of the videos on the picture model is where you want to head next. The videos about the picture model can show you that set of human needs and how they are universal and how they tend to look when they're not being met for us. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any particular questions or reach out on email. Thanks.